Well, Tim, thanks for coming on to Sweet Video and being the first guest.
Thank you for having me, Evan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a talk show at Dolce Video, and you're surrounded by movies.
Feels good.
Do you like movies?
I love movies. When I was growing up, the daily, movie that we got to watch was the biggest deal, and then our Friday night movies were, everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now you're an occasional customer here.
That's right. Yes.
I think I just saw you yesterday.
Yeah. Got a classic.
What did you rent?
Marty, 1955, Earthling Sport 9. Best Picture winner, yeah. It's one that I've never actually got around to seeing. That's been on my bucket list for a long time. I looked at the new release section for a while, but eventually I was like, I just know that there's going to be one calling to me in the classics. And there was. It's waiting for me.
And it was good?
I have not watched it yet. We just got it yesterday, and so we're going to watch it tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do look forward to seeing it. It's been on my bucket list for a while.
Bucket list. Yeah. Once you see that, you can check that off the list. Mm-hmm. And anything else on your bucket list?
There's so many pockets of film that I haven't seen enough of. There's a lot of some 70s, but mostly 80s and 90s stuff that are real blind spots for me. And so I want to see a lot of those. But then there's also, I've seen some of the most classic of the new wave kind of stuff and the Italian new realism, so like 8.5 and things like that. But not enough of them. Not enough. There's so many. Who's the Spanish filmmaker that time? It's like The Exterminating Angel and stuff.
Luis Manuel?
Yeah, I haven't seen any of his at all, and there's a big blind spot. I need to watch, at least half dozen of them. So.
Yeah.
So the bucket list it's a huge bucket. Huge bucket.
Good. We don't want you to get done with the bucket too soon.
Right.
And yeah.
But that's the hard part with new movies is that I can't even get through all of the older ones that I want to catch up on. It's hard to feel like keeping up with the new stuff is also possible at the same time. Most people keeping up with new movies aren't also reaching back at the same time. And it's like I can't reach forward and back at the same time.
Yeah, it's an endless battle because they keep making movies. So
I know.
It's
I've had to talk with them about it, but they just keep making movies.
Yeah. Yeah, the odds are against being able to see everything.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think Hollywood is actually dying?
Do I think it's dying?
They've been talk in the news this last year as if all of the business is going elsewhere and that, the actual physical place, Hollywood, is, going to become maybe where the businesses still have their their headquarters, but not necessarily where it's actually being made.
If you're talking about like Los Angeles,
yeah,
as a whole and less production, that's definitely happening. More and more.
Yeah, I just saw Steve Carell, I think, has a TV show that they're filming, and it's being filmed in the Sacramento area, and that's keeping more and more of that.
Wow, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've heard, I don't know what movie it was, but there was some movie getting shot, and they had a chance to shoot it in LA, but it was like cheaper to just like fly the crew and the cast to someplace like Ireland or something and shoot it there, because of maybe tax incentives or something.
Right.
So that's kind of the big reason I think why productions moving out of LA.
Which is crazy because you would think that having to fly everyone to a different country would mitigate any tax incentive costs, but obviously not.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I would never think that, okay, let's get plane tickets and hotels for the cast and crew and it'll be cheaper than just shooting it, where they live.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe I do think Hollywood is dying. Yeah. But
Hollywood's coming here now.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Leo flying in and out from Napa on the regular, so that must not have been cheap either, having his private plane doing that, but it was obviously worth filming here rather than other places they could have obviously gone with, so.
Yeah. So, I guess it's safe to say you've actually worked with P.T. Anderson.
Worked for, yeah. I don't know if with is which the correct word as for, but yes, I was an extra on the set of what is now being called One Battle After the Other.
Nice. How was that?
It was amazing. You want me to tell that story?
Sure.
We'll just, so before the filming started for that up here, PTA Paul Thomas Anderson was doing location scouting in Humboldt, and so this was, I don't even know what year we're talking now. Gosh, it's so hard to keep track. This must have been in 2023 in June of that year. I was working a late shift on Tuesdays. They were not open for business at the minor theater, so I usually am out by like 5. But our ice machine was on the fritz, and so I had a guy come in to fix that, and he didn't get there till pretty late in the day. So I was around at like 6 o'clock or something, just waiting for that guy to finish up. That's all that was left at that point. And so I was there at a time I normally wouldn't be there, and I was standing in a place that I normally am not, just like standing with my laptop waiting. If I'm working on my laptop, I'm not facing towards the front of the theater. But I happened to be that day at that time. And in that moment, through one of our windows, I see PTA reading the plaque for the minor theater up front.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy. So I just walked outside and said, "Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing?" And he shook my hand and asked if it was true about the age of the theater and all this history behind it. And I told him yes, and he asked if he could take a look inside. And I said, "Are you kidding? You're my favorite, would you believe me if I said you're my favorite living director?" And he was like, "Nah." Well, it's true. Come on in. And so then I showed him around a little bit talked for like 15 minutes. I just told him what stuff there was about the theater and movies we play and stuff like that. He asked some questions, was super nice. I gotta tell him that I think he's the best. He sat through that patiently and everything, and then he disappeared, and I didn't hear anything about him actually filming up there for 6 months, and it started feeling like it was something that I was telling people, like, I met PTA, and they're like, yeah, sure, like that happened. And then sure enough, just as that year was ending, I heard that there was going to be a Warner Brothers production filming up here. And I had known from looking into it after my meeting with PTA that his next movie was going to be with Warner Brothers. And so I immediately jumped on their casting call before the news broke as to who was making it and who was in it. So I submitted for the call for extras, and then didn't hear anything for a bit. And then went on my wife's and our anniversary trip. We went up to the Klamath, and we're in a cabin, which we didn't have any self-service or any of that. But then we turned on the TV, and the local news was on, and it was Redwood News saying, "It's been confirmed, Paul Thomas Anderson is filming up here in Humboldt with Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Regina Hall,"
Nice.
An all-star cast. And then once we went into Crescent City the next day and I got service, I had a voicemail from the casting people that said, "You're going to be a shopper at Murphy's Market," which I already do. So it's like I have to do that.
Okay, I'll bring my grocery list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I should have knocked out my actual groceries then. That's what I do. But it ended up being the Murphy's in Cutton, and it was there for 8 hours or something. Sat around most of the time, but then got a good hour's worth of time directly involved in what they're doing as an extra, just doing takes over again. And it was awesome just because the mark that I had to keep going back to was kind of in the middle of where PTA and Leonardo DiCaprio were converging and discussing each take and then going back and resetting and stuff. And so it was the most surreal thing of my life, because like Paul Thomas Anderson it wasn't just hyperbole when I ran into him. He has been for a long time my favorite filmmaker, and so of all people to have made a movie up here and for me to have run into,
Yeah.
the odds are just so against it. It's hard to believe it really even happened. And then there was a number of extras in which we were just sitting around, and then they had chosen their favorites. The lower people had picked out who they wanted to do different stuff, and I had gotten left behind with maybe 3 or 4 other people. And then all of a sudden they needed another person, and they come back to us, and the guy standing right next to me looks at me and then looks at the other 3 options he has and goes, "Okay, come with me." And so I was their last option to go with, and so they actually have gotten a moment to be involved. We'll see if it makes in the cut. The scene that I was in is in the trailer. It opens the trailer, and the exact moment where Leo would pass by me is cut from the trailer. So we'll see if it ends up in the movie or not, but the experience of being on the set and to be able to see, I guess just that kind of pull behind the curtain. All of the professional filmmakers kind of feel like the Wizard of Oz to me, in a way that it's something unattainable and greater than myself kind of thing. And so to have that pulled back and to see they had an absolutely phenomenal crew that was like on top of everything, but it was pretty stripped down compared to what I had imagined it would be. And the lighting they used was very minimal inside and none outside. And I was really amazed by that. A lot of things like that were really surprising. But the biggest thing was just when they needed something done, suddenly people would come in and just move things around, make it happen. And very, very quick. Time was money, you could tell for sure. Mm-hmm. So.
Nice. That sounds pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
Definitely the single greatest film experience I'm ever going to have. Yeah. The only thing that could top it is being on that dais in the future where I tell PTA, all those years ago, I ran into you and was an extra on your set, and now I'm presenting you this award or something, something like that.
You're going to be like an Oscar presenter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That would be the only thing that would top it.
That might top it, yeah. If you were actually, in the Oscars. Yeah. So you're still a filmmaker. You make movies yourself.
Yeah.
You're not retired yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think I need to finish editing 2 projects to be considered retired probably at that point. But who knows what the future will bring? I certainly don't. I'm not a seer. I can't tell the future. But I do know that I have 2 projects that need to be finished edited, and so I think that the catch-all term filmmaker does include editor. So yes. I'm contemporary.
You're just an editor now.
Feels like it, yes, definitely. I haven't even been writing anything as late, trying to see through projects that I've started on.
Do you want to talk about one of your projects, or?
Sure, I guess Viral Infection would be the one that would do me any good.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I'm working on this YouTube series called Viral Infection that it will star Benny Crotch, who is this guy that makes YouTube videos. He has a tip show, and so it's really, really bad. Not only is it not going anywhere, but it's just not a well-made show anyway. And so basically the idea is every episode opens with a cold open of his really bad show, and then we go into seeing his life of trying to make the show and trying to be a success, and his family life around that. And then other plots develop from there, but the idea is it's a 10 episode, 5-minute long each episode series. So I've made a number of short films, the longest one being 45 minutes, which was definitely a lot for me. This is a 60-minute project overall, so it's definitely the biggest thing I've tackled. And I think I think the format of it is good in being little bite-sized chunks, but like a series of them. And so that'll be nice. I'll probably submit it to Access Humboldt as well as on the YouTube. So that's where this show is going to. On the Access Humboldt. And I wish I could say that it's going to be released on this date or something, but all I could say is someday.
Do you want to show a clip of what you're working on the show, like they do in Jay Leno or something?
Yeah. So in this clip, Benny. Yeah. No. Did not cross my mind, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let's play the clip. We'll play the clip.
All right, let's roll that clip.
Make sure to watch, like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Please. Oh, that sucked. What is wrong with me? I've got personality, I think. I'm unusual anyway. Why doesn't anyone comment? Oh, you've got this, Benny Crotch. This is your destiny. Destiny. Oh, I think I bruised my cheek.
Oh, wow, Tim, that looked amazing, that clip.
It will be phenomenal. Absolutely.
Wow, good. All right, that's what I like to hear.
No, but it is interesting though. I've made stuff that is on the more serious bent. Most of my stuff has included comedy elements, at least, if not being just a full-out comedy. But it is weird because everybody who makes something funny, or what they are calling a comedy, thinks it's funny. And I mean, there's lots of movies where people clearly, if you watch like behind the scenes, they clearly are laughing the entire time and thinking this is amazing, this is so funny. But that actually translating on screen to other people is not always the case.
Yeah.
And it's tough to know, is this funny to me? Is it funny to other people? Is there this independent, just like, it's funny? Like, are things objectively, I mean, this is difficult about art in general, that art is subjective, I guess. But when I watch other people's art, I can feel very like, objectively this is good, or objectively this is bad. I don't think I can make that judgment about my own work though, which is a very different kind of scenario. But I don't know, how do you judge something comedic? Because like drama, it's more like you're just telling something real, and then hopefully that connects. And it's less of a scale where like comedy, it's like people are either gonna find that funny or they're not.
Yeah, I just have my own instinct to trust, and if I think it's funny, chances are someone else will. But there's also like the delivery. Is the delivery going to be funny? And so you don't really seal the deal on the joke until it's delivered the correct way. So the concept and delivery are two different things. But
right.
And sometimes the delivery you don't make it, and it ends up not being funny, or maybe the delivery is so bad that it's still funny. And that's where a beautiful thing happens, where it's like a win-win either way. It's just like so bad it's good, you know.
I don't know if I've gotten lucky enough. I've had so bad. I don't know if it's gotten so bad to where it actually gets good again. I think I've found that in between where it's just so bad.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of comedies where the characters are trying to be funny, so they're like, there's setups and there's punchlines.
Yeah.
And so it's like very obvious that was supposed to be a joke, not like that's a character thing, and then you can find it funny or not, depending on whether you're liking the character, I guess, or finding the character funny. And that was something I tried to do with Viral Infection. Was I'm a big fan of Jack Benny, real old comedian, and he did good stuff on television, but prior to his television days, he was on radio, and I love his radio show. It's hysterical. But one of the things, there's lots of wordplay jokes and all kinds of different types of jokes, but one of the types of jokes they do in it that is my favorite is the character stuff. So they just establish a lot about the character. So Jack Benny is a cheapskate. That's like the core joke. He's really tight with money. And so all they have to do is bring up the idea of him having to spend money, and then he just thinks about it, you know, and you start laughing because there's no line that's making you laugh yet. It's just knowing what's going on in his head because you know the character. And so that was something I really wanted to do, and why I have the character name in Viral Fiction of being Benny was with that central theme of he is going to have a lot of flaws, and everyone's going to point at his flaws constantly, and that will make for good comedy in itself, and that like his character is such a grown-up baby, and you know, such a shallow you know, kind of person that you will find it funny what he's just even doing and decisions he's making, rather than like, oh, that line is cleverly phrased or something, you know. It's like, God, this guy's so ridiculous, you know. Now, of course, there are also punchlines that other people get at his expense that are formulated, you know, like a joke, I guess. But the build up to those jokes, I don't think, without knowing the character, that some of those jokes would even be considered a joke. It's more like an observation of his character.
Interesting.
But if you watch enough episodes of it, you know his character well enough to be like, yeah, that's so him.
Sometimes I just think people are like funny, like just what they do. Like they can just like sit and breathe.
Yeah.
And it just seems like comedy to me. They just have like an aura of being funny, but
yeah.
It's a lot. It's easier if you can find those people to be in your funny movie, because then it's just, you know, it's just money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the other ones I'm editing is called Competitive Theater, and it was when I was trying to make Viral Infection, I ended up at a point of there was things I still needed to get in place to be able to get to that point, but I had this summer in front of me that I had other actors who wanted to do stuff, and I was ready to do something. So I was like, you know what, I have a mockumentary idea that is competitive theater. So the idea is you have these different performers who are all going to compete against one another and win an award and stuff. And the whole idea is, okay, so it's going to be a documentary style about this awards thing, but the awards are pathetic. No one's really interested in them. The performers who are in it are no one spectacular. but they all have huge egos and thinking that they're someone, especially since there is a documentary now being made about the awards. And so a central part to that was having this guy that I've worked with a number of times, who his name's Josue, and he has been in a number of my films, and I've always liked, he doesn't do like acting on stage or anything like that. I just knew him as a person and found him funny, and so cast him in some stuff, and each time I just kind of built up more grandly his, like, the idea that his character would be famous somehow, and be somebody, and he's just able to embody that when he's acting a part where he can just seemingly, like, he's confidence. That's what it is. A real level of confidence in which you're not seeing the cogs moving of him trying to think like, oh, what's going to be funny next, or something like that. It just kind of oozes out of him effortlessly. And so making him this Estefan character that is the actual famous person involved in the competitive theater stuff. He's somebody that just, I knew heading into it, okay, well, he can work in that way for sure. He is a funny person that will just imbue comedy into what he's saying and doing.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, now with everyone else I have, how are we going to get that same kind of result? And I did end up coming up with a characterization that was pretty in-depth for Josue, but for everybody it was a thing of like, I need to really establish who your character is so that you as the actor can be as just into a gameplay of knowing like, this is the type of responses that that will play into. So for instance, I got you to be a character in it, and it was going to be in your interview. Really,
I remember that.
Yeah,
I was in that movie. I acted in something. Yeah.
And the idea was, you're going to be not forthcoming at all with your answers, and so it's like we had a bit within your characterization that's like, if you're leaning into this bit will continue to play out,
Yeah.
And so that was a good way of being able to approach it, in which I didn't have written jokes in any way, but I still wanted to make a comedy. And that's asking a lot of people to be like, so you're gonna be funny now, okay? Without like there being something actually written as far as that. And so what I found there was that writing the character pages for each person, of coming up with who their character was, and trying to make things about their character that were funny. So traits about them that would be,
Oh. We've hit the half-hour mark. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, time is flying by. This was gonna be a long episode, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great banner. That's like you can utilize.
What did it say?
End.
I didn't even read it.
It said recording has automatically stopped.
Oh, nice,
So it's
nice.
Just across the screen like that. You'd like end with that maybe or something.
Yeah. So it's called Competitive Theater. That's your second project.
Yeah, that's the other one I have on the back burner.
Do you have any clips for that you want to show?
Let's say yes.
You want to say yes? Okay.
Let's say yes.
Well, we're getting 2 clips in one episode on the first episode. Wow. Okay. Competitive Theater, Tim's other film project. Let's play the clip.
That's going to be a good one. It's going to be a really
Okay.
good one.
All right.
I'm looking forward to that. No, but it is something that's funny that editing it is something that is very different than other stuff, of just not having specific, this line follows this line and then this scene follows this scene. It's a bunch of bits that will hopefully fit together in a cohesive way when they get there. But one of the like, I guess I was saying was that the cool thing that came out of it for me, as far as hopefully developing as a writer, is the emphasis on character. That when I was writing stuff prior, I was I feel like the character that they were was kind of, I just knew it. And it's not that like I knew it always prior, just like once I started writing a character, it just kind of came to me how they should speak and stuff. And then once a line came to my mind, it then informed the character. So it's like the lines came first and then the character, if that makes sense. So it's like, oh, this is a funny line, or this is, you know, a good attitude to oppose this character's attitude, and then be like, okay, so that's who that character is they are what they're saying, and that anything trying to understand them, you can find it in the words, what they said, and that will inform you. Whereas it was exactly the opposite with competitive theater. I was having to write just a page of the character, and then from there the dialogue would come out of it. And so most of it came out of the actors themselves. I have a few lines that I thought would be, you know, appropriate that I throw out. Be like, okay, for this question, why don't you give this response, you know? And I generally was after we did it first to take to just see what they said, you know. As you remember, we would do another round of it and be like, okay, maybe how about this kind of response to this or something. I'd have some, you know, things I thought were funny gags. But those would come after we had already done all this establishing of the character. And so I did try to bring that to Viral Infection, which I'd already written at least half of prior to it, but that bringing that kind of emphasis on character and figuring out who the character is a bit more before giving them all the dialogue, and really making sure that the one precedes the other, not just like, because I can't stand when I watch a movie and I can see the tail wagging the dog, it drives me crazy. Where it's like, why would that person have made the decision? And it's like, oh, because the writer needed us to get to this next scene or whatever, you know?
It was good that it was kind of an improv. I'm not sure. I can't even memorize the scripts I write. So it's like,
well, and that was the feeling I had in wanting to make it a mockumentary was, how is this going to sound not stilted like a regular film and sound really genuinely, you know, the words just coming out naturally kind of thing as they do in real conversations. And I just felt like if it's written down, there's no way that it's going to come out that way. And so even for stuff that I had thought of ahead of time, I would just keep that on a sheet for myself until we're filming, and then just verbally throw it out to the person. Be like, how about you say something like blah, blah, blah. And then that way they wouldn't even exactly, it would, closest thing would be a paraphrase of what I said. And so they'd be automatically putting in their own words. And ideally we'd get that in the first take that we try it with them. So that way they can't get it worked out really. And so that was interesting. It was like really trying to force, I mean, I guess improv, but more like forcing them to really just be immersed in who the character is and not waiting for a signal from me to be like, do we cut now? Is it over? Like, just staying in it no matter what's get thrown your way. And some people are better at that than others, for sure. I was really amazed. I've worked with Kyle on so many different projects over the years, and but he always had a script. And so for this one, I couldn't believe when I was looking back at some of the footage recently, just how into that character he was able to get. Because it's nothing like his real person, and there was like layers to it of basically his character is someone who was a child star and has faded as he's grown up and into his 30s. And he still wants to embrace that at times, but he doesn't live it all the time. And so he himself is putting on a character for the camera. And so there's a layer of who he is when he's not pretending, and then when he is pretending, and neither one of them are Kyle. So he's always pretending, but keeping the double layers there was something that that really just, you know, like I said, the fact that he wouldn't break out of that and really keep it for as long as he did was impressive.
Yeah, I think I might know the character Kyle's playing more than the actual real Kyle. I don't know. He'd be a good person to get on the show, actually.
Yeah.
Real quick, is that red light on the Blackmagic camera still on?
Oh, I thought you were going to do it. Yes, it is.
Okay, that's good news. So that means it's still recording.
Yeah, so that camera has a 30 minutes limit on it. For the Blackmagic, it's just however much space you have, right?
Yeah, the Canon T4i has a half-hour limit for shots, but the amount of memory that it takes, it's like 1 gig for like a half hour, and it's like a 64 gig camera. So if as long as you keep pressing record, it's like recording that 640, 480. So just like tiny video. That's great.
That's amazing. But that's cool they can record that long. I had a T3i Canon that only did 10-minute increments, so...
Oh, wow, that's crazy. I don't remember that. Because I used a T2i, maybe that was the case. I don't remember. But,
Soderbergh's Logan Lucky. He had just done some stuff with the camera work there where he just would let the characters enter frame, sit on them for a while, and then do a simple pan that was like a punchline kind of thing, and it worked really effectively, I thought. So I wanted to do something kind of like that, but I think the longest take in that is like 4.5 minutes or something, maybe 5 minutes, and it's 3 characters that walk in the frame and then do various amount of things where it was they're rearranging in the shot for the most part. There's one part where we pan down, and then it's probably about halfway through the take. And I'd say on average, I do about 5 takes for normal things. And we probably did a couple more than that for that, but we really rehearsed it where I was amazed that it didn't take more takes to get every aspect right.
Yeah. What do you think is the most takes you've had on one shot where it just like people are just getting so sick and tired of doing this one shot?
I mean, I know that for one of the takes for Viral Infection, that is a one shot, several minutes long. I don't know exactly how long it is before we cut, but it's probably 2 to 3 minutes at least. And the cut that breaks it up is a close-up that then goes back to that master shot. So when we actually filmed it, it probably was about 5 minutes, for the take itself. And I want to say we did like 13 of those.
Wow, yeah.
There was a similar one to that Raw Fiction where it was another one shot kind of all playing out where people are moving around, but the camera's just staying still. And so we did similarly like a dozen takes of it. And I think most of the time, outside of like, there's this one moment in particular I could think of with Viral Fiction where this character played by John Nathanson, she is put down the beer, says that's it, and pulls out a joint. So that's the extent of it. Goes boom, that's it, pulls out the joint, and then walks off frame. So very, very short action we needed, but getting that right, I'm sure it was the long filming day and everything else, but she would forget to put the beer down, or she'd forget to go for the joint, or forget to say the line. Like one of the 3 things that needed to happen.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it's like one of the 3 things each time would just be forgotten. And so we did that at least a dozen times, if not more, till we finally got all 3 elements of beer down, that's it, and then joint out.
Nice, yeah. Cool.
I mean, similarly, just thinking about that, we did way too many takes of this shot of a hedge right after that scene where she then walks outside with the joint, followed by 2 other people walking out to smoke it. They go behind a hedge, and it's pretty simple as far as what the actors are doing, but I was trying to get a effect of the smoke coming from behind the hedge, and boy, that's a lot harder to get to show up on screen than you would think. So we did way too many takes of that. And Kyle was the smoke person for that, so I almost killed him.
He was a pyrotechnics.
Yeah. Yeah, he was producing the smoke for us.
Nice. If you could make a sequel to any movie that doesn't have a sequel already, what would it be?
The only one that comes to mind to me that I've seen that I thought, oh, that needs a sequel. I've seen many that I feel like should be remade because they're like, they have a good nugget in it of the plot or something, but it just was done so badly. It's like, me and Kyle have talked about the idea of writing a book called Secondhand Scripts. That was the idea, and it stemmed from the movie Secondhand Lions, which we thought had something good at the center of it, but was a very flawed movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah, so it's it just basically can be, the scenes themselves could be greatly improved. If you take the same premise and even overall plot, you could greatly improve the scenes themselves with rewriting them. And there's been a number of movies that him and I have, joked around that like, oh, that should be one of those added to that should be, rewritten. But that's rewriting. That's not a sequel. So to actually answer your question, I think Avanti is the movie that I would say that for.
What was it?
It's called Avanti.
Avanti.
It's from 1972, written and directed by Billy Wilder. It's an adaptation of a play, but it stars Jack Lemmon and Juliet. Juliet Mills, sorry, the sister of Haley Mills of the Disney stuff from the 60s. But anyway, the movie basically takes place in Italy, and it's about a romance that develops there. And I've just imagined before what those characters, years later, what that relationship would be like. And kind of like how the Before trilogy takes a relationship when it's really young, and all of the emotions that come with a fresh relationship and stuff, and kind of like so much wanting it and like wanting to put in the work for it, to then going through where by the time you get to Before Sunset, it's, they still want to put in the work, but boy, there's just so much more baggage, you know? And so that idea of this relationship that like is very plot driven, how they come together and stuff, becoming more of a like, okay, now let's just hang out with them in that hotel in Italy when they're together again in 30 years or whatever. And I could imagine that being really interesting. So I guess I'll say that one. It's the only one I could think of.
Avanti.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. So if you could remake a movie, then that's a tough one, I think.
It is, because like
You don't want to pick a good movie.
exactly, like what comes to mind are ones I really love, and
Yeah, something you really like, because it's like, why would I do that?
yeah, right, exactly. Like one of my favorite movies is 12 Angry Men. I just think that one is just so, it speaks to so much about society and prejudice and justice and all this kind of stuff, while being it's an argumentative, like the characters are all arguing, and so the points of views are being expressed very fully as to different things, but they're talking about a specific case. They're not saying like, well, I'm a racist, so I think this. But you can tell why someone is making certain decisions and feeling certain ways about stuff because of their prejudices and stuff like that. And so it really just puts these ideas in conflict with each other in a great way. And it's just such a tight movie. And I'm talking about Sidney Lumet's 1957 version, not the remake, which that's the thing, is it has been remade.
Yeah, I mean, that one's been done.
Yeah, it was
a few times, so.
William Friedkin did a remake in the 90s, and he got an all-star cast. It was like led by Jack Lemmon and stuff, and got a lot of great actors in there, and you know, you'd think that would be, with that good of a director, that would be a successful remake, but because it was a good movie before, it the remake is lacking in comparison. If I had just seen the remake, I probably would have said, like, yeah, that was a good movie. But knowing how great the original is, it wasn't worth making a remake, in my opinion. But yeah, it is, as far as one I'd actually want to remake, I'd have to think about it for a long time, because it'd have to be one that isn't very good but has good elements. And that's they have to be really good elements, I guess. Movies are fun. They're entertaining. They're, all those things, but they're also really powerful and can be very important. And that movies have changed people's opinions of things over the years. They've made people, think about things differently. They've made our expectations of how someone should be and what is a good person. There's a lot of things that tell us what we should expect from people as far as good behavior. A lot of those are like religious type things or ethical, type things. And the thing that goes back probably through all of time, but that what we can see in the written record of time, is that we write stories that have heroes that do good things and that overcome the bad things. And it seems to me that we've used that to impart our own sense of right and wrong into those stories, so that way they can carry on, and that we imbue our art with a sense of that. And it's easy to think that means you have to get preachy, and I don't think that ever really comes across well in art.
Yeah.
That's what a church is for, is to preach.
Yeah, there's a place for that.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And then the story should be much more subtle, where you as the audience are going to make certain assumptions when watching a movie, and if you come to certain conclusions about stuff without it even being talked about, but you're just like, okay, yeah, that person telling the truth was a really good thing. I'm really glad he ended up doing that. Maybe when you come across a situation where you're being, tempted to not tell the truth, you might actually remember the character that, did a difficult thing and that you admired, It's like getting good examples of people to look up to in life. And so I think that that's something that I wish more people realize the power of and try to really do, rather than just trying to make something that's popular. But it's difficult, because if it's not popular, no one's going to see it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if you make something to just be successful, I think you are approaching it the wrong way. There's lots of people who have approached it from the heart and have gotten successful at the same time, and it is possible to do.
That's right. You too can be successful.
Not me, but you can.
Oh, yeah.
And if your name is Paul Thomas Anderson, you can be successful.
Yeah. Don't give up. Don't give up. I wouldn't say I'm the example of success at this point either, but, hey, I'm on TV. Mm-hmm. So I'm on TV right now, so I did something.
And I look forward to your feature. You should talk about Cult Leader a little bit.
Oh no, this isn't all right. This isn't the right place for that. This is about the guest. I'm just a TV man on the TV. So
man on the TV. It is interesting how many different types of stories you can tell and ways you can approach it.
Yeah.
Like, I've done some things that are visually very loose, and other things that were like exactly laid out. Like, I guess here's a question: when you're filming, do you have a shot list?
Sometimes.
Just
I mean, I have a shooting script.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's a list of shots, and basically the way I write a script is pretty much a shot list.
Okay.
That's just how I space the sentences out.
Totally.
So if I have, in a script, if I have two sentences together, those two things happen on the same shot. And then if I'm gonna cut, then I'll hit the paragraph button, hit enter a couple times, start a new shot.
Okay.
So my scripts are basically kind of like shot lists.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have things like close up on his face?
No.
Something like that?
Not like that.
Okay.
Not like notes for the cinematographer or anything.
Right.
I just, I just look at what I wrote and I remember how I wanted it to look.
Totally.
Although, in the future I may have to do something like that. I've worked with a cinematographer in film school, but I have never worked with one. Well, I guess that's not true. I did work with one on a short after film school, and I don't remember ever putting in shot notes like that. I just kind of told.
Did you find that difficult? Because I've always filmed everything that I've done, and so having to translate, how something is supposed to look to someone else, I've never had to do. Is that?
It really depends on the person that you're working with, whether it's gonna be difficult or not. If there's someone that kind of gets what you're doing, then hopefully this toilet doesn't break. But someone that gets what you're doing, then it's pretty easy, and you can discuss what you're doing before the shooting day.
Right.
And maybe they will take notes and have their shot list, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I never liked seeing director notes and scripts. And I was always taught, if you're the screenwriter, don't do that, because that's not your job.
For sure. And no, yeah, when I'm writing stuff, I don't include anything like that, like we move to or things like that, really. That's like describing what the camera's going to be doing.
Yeah.
But I definitely have thoughts in mind, and if the earlier films, I would lay out exactly ahead of time what I was thinking, and maybe I didn't always follow it exactly, but at first I think I really did, where I would even put the lens I wanted to use, whether it was going to be a close-up, medium, or wide shot, and which character it would be on, or if it was on, an object rather than a subject or something.
Yeah, I think I would maybe put CU next to a shot, just pencil it in CU, or MS, or medium shot, or maybe just an M, or maybe a W for wide. Keep it real loose though. Nothing real specific.
Yeah.
Just keep it wide. This one's closer. Closer than the last one.
Right, and so when I'm imagining those, I have specific thoughts in mind of how wide or how close, but since I haven't had to translate to someone else, I haven't tried to come up with more specific descriptions than that. I probably did stuff like that with the first couple ones I did. By the time I filmed this last one that I had done, Viral Infection, it is a sitcom format, and therefore has a lot of shoulder rig kind of work.
Yeah.
And wanted it to feel loose, and I'm not trying to imbue a lot in the shots. It's not like the shots themselves need to have a lot of meaning. It's more, it's not supposed to be something that's visually drawing you in and telling you what's happening next and stuff like that. And so with that, I don't think I wrote a single thing. We had our shot list for the day of what scenes we were going to film, because we filmed it out of order, and it's a 60-page script. So of course each day we had to come up with what scenes we were going to get, but we didn't have a shot list itself in any way. I just had it in my head by that point, knowing what kind of stuff I wanted and would be able to do it. And so I think some of it comes from doing it enough times, but then also just depending on how tight of a film you want it to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For something like the competitive theater, it would just be like, whatever happens, happens.
I wanted to be as little prepared for that one as possible, for sure.
Yeah.
For it to have the documentary kind of look to it, I wanted to have to make adjustments on the fly that I wasn't planning ahead of time.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I didn't want to just do random zooms that I had planned ahead of time all the time kind of thing. You know, like, I wanted to really actually have to, like, even if I had to adjust exposure partway through, that's okay. You know?
Yeah.
That'll look right in the thing, and stuff like that. So,
so all your movies can be seen on your YouTube channel?
yes, TK Film Studios is the name of our YouTube.
We'll put a little link on the bottom there for you.
Make it really little. A really little
Okay.
link.
Okay. Make it really little.
Yes, if anyone wanted to see them, they could check them out there.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have here today.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
I like that you're doing this show, not only for yourself and the exposure that hopefully you'll get by doing this, but the spotlight you're putting on specifically the Dolce video, but
Yeah.
you know, video rental in general, and then even more broadly on film. Like I said, it's it's everything to me. It's like, it's hard to overstate how important it is, that because it truly is the art form of our day. And you know, it's because it's also a product, it's often diminished, and it's just so oversaturated right now, the market, that, you know, it can be devalued because of that. And I think that if it becomes in the future that, like, something like video games become the hot thing, and the movie industry falls from its, you know, peak of where the money makers want to be at or whatever, that we will regret the devaluing of it, and we will find it to be a very valuable thing. And I mean, it's something we've seen with old films. You know, in the silent era, they would take the celluloid when a film ended its run, and they melted down to reuse for the next film. They had no sense that these films would have any value in the future, and that film preservation has shown it to be exactly the opposite case, that they have lots of value to us. And
Absolutely.
through these times. So
cool. Well, thank you, and thanks for watching Sweet Video. Until next time, let's keep those TVs on, everyone. All right. Good night, or good day, good morning. I don't know. Whenever you're watching this, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
love it.
Okay.